All right, now I get my chance to fire away, and I'm going to keep it short because my voice is dying as I go here, and I will get that doctor's note, I promise. Episode 11 of Fireway, we talked about doctor's notes and the changes we've seen over the past year, where the Liberal government in Ontario brought in personal emergency leave and a prohibition on the ability of employers to require doctor's notes. The Conservative government then came into power, made a whole lot of changes, repealed many of the changes to Bill 148, and also removed that prohibition. So now employers can ask for doctor's notes again when there is an absence. There's a lot of controversy over this. The medical associations are adamantly against employers using doctors to, as they say, police their employees and require doctor's notes. They say it takes away from valuable doctors' time. It risks spreading communicable diseases by making someone go into the doctor's office and get a note, etc. One of the points I wanted to make, though, in my chance to fire away today is that the only reason we're debating this issue of doctor's notes, the only reason that employers want the right to require doctor's notes in certain circumstances is, like so many aspects of employment law, the need is driven by the minority of people who abuse a right, in this case, the right to sick days. If people only took sick days when they needed them, this would not even be a discussion. The reality, though, is that we all know people who want to go away to Vegas for the weekend and they're out of sick days, or they're out of vacation days, or they have a friend in front of town. They don't want to burn a vacation day, so they call in sick. Or, as I have seen happen, people actually ask for time off. The employer says, unfortunately, you can have that time off some other time, but we need you in the office that day. And then they mysteriously become sick on that day, which is just so blatant that it's almost inexcusable. But that's where an employer should have the right to require documentation and essentially, police that situation and impose discipline or dismissal in the right cases. So that's what we're talking about. What baffles me, and one of my pet peeves I want to talk about today, is why there are so many employers that unnecessarily limit their own rights. So if you're unionized, you have a collective agreement, you've got to negotiate that. And odds are you're going to have a sick leave policy which says something like, if you're absent for more than more than 3 days, then you are going to be required to bring in a doctor's note. The reality is that we often see the situations I mentioned earlier, where someone is taking 1 day, but it's clearly, or at least appears to be, fraudulent. Or you have the person who is conveniently absent on every Friday before a long weekend in the summer, and you want to ask for a doctor's note. If your collective agreement says you can only ask for one after 3 consecutive days, you're out of luck. But what baffles me is the employers who are not unionized, and they probably go online and find a policy, or they copy it from a friend or a colleague, and that policy says you're entitled to X number of sick days, and if you're absent for more than 3 days, we can require a doctor's note. And then, of course, they call someone like myself and they say, we've got this employee, they're always absent for the long weekend, or they've always got these suspicious absences. Can I ask for a doctor's note? And when I look at their policy, I say, no, because you created the rules. No one else interfered in that. And you've basically tied one hand behind your back. So if you're an employer and you're not unionized, make sure your policies say what you want them to say. And second point, though, is very important. Enforce those policies in a respectful manner, in a fair manner. You don't want to be abusive. You don't want to single out certain employees. You don't want to harass certain employees by enforcing them against some employees, by not others. But as long as you're conducting yourselves fairly, you also want to be able to ensure that people are coming into work when they should be coming into work and not taking advantage of the sick days that you're offering them. The bottom line is that, and this is something that Omar Herrera and I discussed in episode 11, we're not just talking about sick days. We're talking about a broader relationship. The employment relationship is one of the most significant relationships you have in your life, whether you're the employer or the employee. It should be governed by good faith, by mutual respect, by trust. Employers, you have a business to run. Work has to be done. We all get that. But you should also be respectful and considerate and compassionate, because the vast majority of time when someone calls in sick, it's because they are sick, as I am today. But when there is an abuse, you as an employer want to have the right to control it, i.e. by requiring doctor's notes, knowing that it's far from a perfect system, knowing that it's not going to be that hard for someone to get a doctor's note, whether they go online and Google how to get doctor's notes online, or whether they go to a clinic. Just the fact that they have to will act as a deterrent and may cause some people to choose just to come into work rather than taking a day off when they don't really need it. But employees need to know that if they are sick, if they have a legitimate illness, their job is not going to be in jeopardy if they take the day off. At the same time, employees should know that if they are abusing the sick days that they are provided with, then there are going to be consequences. There may be discipline up to and including dismissal, as we often say. So that's my 2 cents worth for today, and you got it here for free.